babaláwo. Èèyàn ìbọ̀rù bọ́yè ó yàn.
Boy, how's everyone? This is Oluo Fakolade of Idinka Ifa Temple. We are going to start our temple service. We welcome you all. Thank you all for joining us. Let's pray. Mojoba Olorun, Mojoba Leda, Mojoba Oloromari, Mojoba Bobo Romale, Mojoba Bobo Imale, Mojoba Boy Guntembili, Soloromari, Mojoba, Oshungwade, Mojoba Gwade, Mojoba Fagramus, Mojoba Tua, Mojoba Flori, Mojoba Palau Corriente, Mojoba Philip Taloweto, Mojoba Gonjobi, Mojoba Miye, Mojoba Shamala, Mojoba Shalanko, Mojoba Tonade, Mojoba Tubi, Mojoba Based and Mombaba, Tia Padekido, Ashe. We call on the Odu, Ejogbe. Ejogbe, he hears people please and accepts the please. He hears people please and approves the please. He talks to people and ensures that the talk is completely absorbed. He hears people please, accepts please, the name Rifa. He hears people please and approves please, the name Shodar. He talks to people and ensures that the talk completely absorbs the name Orishan. Orishan lead the person most and being person most one cannot felt impressed on strike frogs on some rainfall. Bull frogs on some downpour. It is whatever the Akiriju poem, Q tells earth or this accepts, whatever the big rat tells earth or this accepts. All what I tell you, Father, please accept them and prove them. O Terete, to show gratitude upon gratitude is the hour of our gratitude. To display benevolence upon benevolence is the hour of our benevolence. Whoever does not show gratitude for yesterday's benevolence, such a person not receive today's utility. These were the declarations of Ifa to the 401 Irumale when going to marry Okwe, the daughter of Orisha Boji. I'm grateful. I see my gratuity. I'm grateful yesterday's favor. I see today's gratuity. Oh, Terete, we're very grateful. Awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe, awa bure, adupe, anawa obore to neighbor, Olodumare, awa dupe, awa bure. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búre, a dúpẹ́ àná, àwa búre tùnẹ́bù orí ẹni. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búre, àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búre, a dúpẹ́ àná, àwa búre tùnẹ́bù. Ìlú mọ̀lẹ́, àwa dúpẹ́, àwa búre, àwa dúpẹ́, àwa búre, a dúpẹ́, àná, àwa búre tòníbù lẹ́gùn lọ́rìṣà Ọ̀rúnmìlà. We call on you. I'm the Odu, Erosun Etutu. Pounded yam without soup can be very difficult to consume. These were the declarations of Ifa to a Tutu, the child of Agbeneregun. He was full of bad character. These bad attributes have prevented him from entity Bazume. Now come to solicit on behalf of the Tutu. We've come to beg on behalf of the Tutu. Father, please be patient. Overlook this provocation. How many children does Ifa have that he will cast out? Those who beg on behalf of the Tutu. Ifa, we ask for your forgiveness at this time. Forgive us for anything that we've done wrong, anything that we've done incorrectly, anything that we might have made a mistake, any taboos we might have broken. We ask at this time that you would forgive us for that. Ifa, support us. Ashe. Ifa, at this time we ask that you would continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fight, litigation, losses, now I fight, ward off witchcraft and negative energy from us. Bring forth to us on life, wealth, good spouse, good children, longevity, prosperity, victory over adversity, peace of mind, joy, healing, success, and all the wonderful things of life. Ashe. We call on the Odu Ifa. Ejogbe. Ejogbe. Ifa says the gradual process. I say it is a gradual process. Where is the rat of yesterday night? The poor rat of yesterday night is still alive. Let her suffer. Let her continue to experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become Toro Fidni. the leader of all rats. We have made Toro Fini the leader of rats. All rats, come and pay your tribute, all rats. Ifa says it is a gradual process. I say it is a gradual process. Where is the poor fish of yesternight? The poor fish of yesternight is still alive. Let her continue to suffer. Let her continue to experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon be known as Akagba, the leader of fish. We have made Akagba the leader of all fish. Come and pay your homage to all fish. Ifa says that it is a gradual process. I say it is a gradual process. Where is the poor bird of yesternight? The poor bird is still alive. Let her continue to suffer. Let her continue to experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become Okinini, the leader of all birds. We have made Okin the leader of all birds. Come now and pay your homage, all birds. Ifa says it's a gradual process. I say it is a gradual process. Where is the poor beast of yesternight? The beast of yesternight is still alive. Let her continue to live. Let her continue to suffer and experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become known as Kinyu Nini, the leader of all beasts. We have made Kinyu the leader of all beasts. Come and pay your tribute, all beasts. Ifa says it is a gradual process. I say that it is a gradual process. Where is the poor man of yesternight? The poor man of yesternight is still alive. Let him continue to suffer. Let him continue to experience want. He will soon become great. He will soon become prominent. He will soon be known as Okambi, the leader of all humans. We have made Okambi leader of all humans. Come and pay tribute, all humans. Father, we ask at this time that you would support all of us in being great and claiming a position of greatness. Please continue to ward off death, sickness, cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses, and outright fights from us. Bring to us long life, wealth, good spouse, good children, healing, peace of mind, joy, success. Father, we call on you to do such good things. Oshetra, tiny of the feet of Tubu, the stripe of a chameleon is not big enough to be able to take it. Had it been enough to be able to take it, I would have taken it home and drawn my hair with it. These was declarations 3-5-2. Arula, when going on a spiritual mission to a Jebelin, we call on locusts and sell and pay money. We call on salt seller and make her rich. We call on Arula. Oshe Arula, the good wall. Oshetra, tiny of the feet of Tubu, the stripe, student. I kick in the bagisa, the abstract sharply against the tree. Castify for Roman Houston, be by and I share from all of the mind. The abstract sharply against the tree, Castify for Roman Houston, be by and I share from all of them. If an old touches you wealthy, surely be wealthy. I kick in a bagisa in the mouth of an old, I deep by and I share in the mouth of an old wolf. If an old touch have joy, surely have joy. I kick in a bagisa in the mouth of an old, I deep by and I share in the mouth of an old wolf. If an old touch have victory, surely have victory. I take it back inside. The mouth of another side, Zibana share, the mouth of an owl. If no one should have all the good things in life, you should surely have all good things in life. I kick in back inside. The mouth of an owl is Zibana share, the mouth of an owl. To Essie, maybe so, surely shall it be. Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Gbogbo ohun tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìwọ́mọlẹ̀ ó bà. Ifá ọba ò àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi àṣẹ. Bí mo tó rọ̀ tí mo súre, bí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀ tí mo súre, bí mo kúnlẹ̀ tí mo súre, bí mo jókòó tí mo súre, ire tí mo sú orí ti bọ́. Let us put our hands on our oris. Ori eni larure eni ya, ori eni larure eni. Mojulo mufa wa mori, ori eni larure eni. Ashe. Bobore chasu, Ifá ò bá lọ́rùn, àtìgbà tí a bí. Ifá ò bá lọ́rùn, ó ṣe àrò ìlà Ifá ti bọ́. Olodumare and all of the divinities, we call on you. We call on the 256 Odu. We call on you. We call on 801 Irumula. We call on you. We call on Olodumare to ward off all death from us, ward off all sickness from us, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses, outright fights, witchcraft, and negative forces from us. Bring forth to us longevity, prosperity, victory over adversity, healing, joy, peace of mind, success. Ifá, we ask that you would move negative things out of the way, move things out of the way so that we can hear a word of Ifá. We ask that you would move my ego out of the way so that we can hear a word of Ifá at this time. Emma kamimeni amo, Emma kamimeni ano, Emma kamimeni adelokun, tamole, tori Ifá lónìí, Ebora timpanini, eni banami, àwọn àti Ifá leleju, Ashe, Ifá, we thank you. Good morning, Ekaro. I'm Olu Fakolade of Idinka Ifa Temple. This morning we're going to discuss the topic of, if you don't know the way, why are you leading? And this topic is very interesting because it kind of came to me while me and my family were on vacation. And we were at a restaurant in New Orleans, and one of the children, I had gone to the bathroom, and one of the children was like, "Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom." So I'm taking them to the bathroom, and the child decides to take the lead. And in my mind, I was like, "Man, you don't know where the bathroom is, though. You don't." And I said, uh, "If you don't know the way, why are you leading?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know." And then all the people in the restaurant kind of chuckled. But it's a very interesting question and thought process when we begin to think about the world today. When we think about like the internet, when we think about even political leadership around the world, do they know the way? And if they don't know the way, or they don't have a concept of the way, why are they leading us? And there's an African proverb that says, if you have no direction, any road will get you there. So when we think about this process, I want to talk about what is leadership and what does poor leadership look like and what does good leadership look like? What does it look like to be a good leader? What does it look like to be a person who has no concept of good leadership? And when I say that, what I'm talking about is here today, and when we look at the internet, we have so many people who call themselves influencers. And these influencers oftentimes are reading up in a book real quick. Okay, I'm going to make a real quick video. And then they make their video to make it seem like they're an expert in something that many times they have very little knowledge about. I've looked on the internet recently, and there are so many individuals who are writing books about Ifa, writing books about hoodoo, writing books about other things that they really don't know anything about. It's kind of challenging when if a person is writing a book about Ifa and they present themselves to be an expert and they aren't even initiated into the process. We live in a world that's like that, a world that's based upon appearances, and where you go to Skid Row and decide to hand out food, clothing, but you got to make sure, hold up, where's the camera? Do you see me? I'm giving this out. Is that good leadership? Or is that a TV show? And there's a difference. Are 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 our actors and celebrities, are they leaders? Are our musicians, rap stars, are they our leaders? And I just want us to kind of think about that question when we think about leadership. I remember years ago, there was a commercial on television, and it was an actor, and he was making a commercial about a medical thing, a medical, either medicine or some sort of medical process. And this is what he said, and I quote, "I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV." And then he goes into this process, and that was basically the credibility that people needed for this person to be a leader. I'm needless to say, we've got poor leadership choices at this time. But I want to give us some examples to kind of evaluate what a good leader is and what a good leader isn't. What does it take to be a good leader? So, the first Ifa that I want to talk about comes from the Odu Ofun Meji. Ifa says, the kola nut breaker is expected to consume 2 kola nuts. An avaricious or greedy elder will consume 3. After consuming 3 kola nut lobes, he will carry his load by himself and move on. This was Ifa's message to the leader, who shall eventually become the follower. He was advised to offer Ebo, but he refused to comply. Now, it is their inability to act properly and their refusal to speak the right words at the appropriate time. These were the things that turned the leader into the follower. It was their inability to act properly. So, this Ifa is about a process of how leaders can be too high handed and absolutely wrong. And what happens when leaders do things that are wrong or incorrect? And when I say wrong or incorrect, I mean consistently wrong. They make a habit of lying. They make a habit of being high handed and greedy and so on and so forth. This is the Odu of Ofumeji. This is the story of how Ofumeji became the last Odu. Hence the reason when we say Ofumeji, we say Epa, to pay homage to the position that Ofumeji once occupied in Merindi Logun, the first 16 Odu. Ofumeji initially was the first instead of Ejiogbe. Ofumeji Epa was the first, and Ejiogbe was actually the last. And what occurred is Ofumeji would receive all of the Ebo materials and the offerings. And in this Odu Ifa says kola nuts. So when we look at this process of doing Oshe Ifa, making Ebo, and we give kola nuts to the divinities, we will share the 4 lobes of the kola nut. We will give the divinity perhaps 1 or 2, and then we might take a bite of 1 and then share the other 2. Ifa is saying that Ofumeji would take 2 and then 3 kola nuts and then share the 1 kola nut with all the rest of the Odus, which would mean Ofumeji would take 3 kola nuts and then give the 4th to the other 15 Odu. And would give the bulk of the take to Oshe Meji, but Ofumeji was still even subjugating Oshe Meji. The whole point of this is that 16 Odus were sharing 4 pieces of kola nut. And when we look at that, that's a metaphor for 1 goat. Ofumeji would take all of the lion's portion of the offering and then give the other 15 Odu a leg to divide up amongst themselves. So this is an inequality. This is what we see oftentimes all around the world when we look at foreign policy and colonialism, even in Africa. On the continent of Africa, what's happening? And many of the leaders are receiving foreign policy from Europe, from America, foreign aid, excuse me, and they keep the lion's portion of the money and share scraps with the community. Hence the reason why in Nigeria, when we're in the towns and the townships that are outside of Lagos Island or Victoria Island, the electricity will go off periodically because we have poor leadership. Poor leadership. Leaders are being too greedy and high-handed. They are like Ofumeji. But what was happening? Ejiogbe was taking his little portion, and he took his little portion and he would share that little piece, that scrap piece of one piece, and he would share that with everybody. Anytime the Odus received offerings, Ejiogbe would always make a way for everyone to eat communally and add things to the offering so that everyone would be full, so that everyone would have what they needed. And the 15 Odu began to realize, man, Ejiogbe shares even when he doesn't have very much. He shares what he has and he makes sure that everyone has their fill or has their need. That is a good quality of a good leader. Ofumeji, on the other hand, is taking from us. And Ofumeji is consuming the lion's portion of what we all need. Ofumeji is being greedy. And what Ifa says is a coup basically took place. The 15 Odu, or perhaps the 14, made a coup against Ofumeji and Oshemeji. And they deliberated and they took the leadership position from Ofumeji and put Ofumeji at the back and put Ejiogbe at the front, because everyone saw that Ejiogbe, when given a position of leadership, would do what was right, would do what was correct. Ifa is saying that eventually bad leadership will be overthrown. Eventually, horrible leadership will become the follower. The leader who is poor will eventually become a follower. Ifa says in the Odu, Otura Iwori. Ifa says, Oba Lara sent people on errand. They called all the animals in the forest. They called the human beings. They called the human beings, but they excluded us by the power of Olodumare and by the power of our Egbe in heaven. Let the grasses rise up. Let all the shrubs rise up. The ones on the right will rise up. The ones on the left will rise up. We will go home. We will dance to dundun drums. On Ifa, on this Odu, Otura Wari, many years ago when we were having this challenge of voting in a, a president, and one of the most high-handed presidents or unequal presidents that we saw was the Trump era. And this was one of the Odus that we cast for that time period to keep us safe and protected. But what does this Odu say? Oturawori is talking about how the king decided he wanted to have a great party. And when he decided to have this party, he asked some of the birds to go and help clear out the land, or excuse me, he asked humans to go and clear out the land and certain other human beings to go and clear this area. And he excluded a certain echelon of the population. I believe it was the birds. And as he excluded them, they realized that he was segregating people, he was segregating the community. So, as this segregation process took place, the birds were left out. The birds decided to call on their Egbe in Orun, and they decided to call on the plants and the other animals. And when this area was cleared out for the party, they then decided, you know what? No, let's call on these plants and these shrubs to grow back overnight, to grow back. And so that's what happened. So they had to continually try to clean. And then finally, the king had to realize the position of these individuals that he had excluded. Ifa says that a leader is also a poor leader when they practice segregative actions, when they decide, you know what, white is better than black, or black is better than white. When they decide to make segregative moves and subjugate another group based upon perhaps color, race, ethnicity, language. Any leader that does that is not good. Just as in Ofumeji and Oturawari, that leader too will be deposed. That leader will eventually be removed from his or her position. When we think about this, there are so many qualities that we see that leaders have and they don't, some leaders have and some leaders do not have. But let's talk about when a leader needs to listen. Ifa says in Oshe Meji, let the water spill out and flow, and let the rocks, or excuse me, let the roots crack. Let the water gently cross over the roots, so that the passerby will not break their legs. These were Ifa's declarations to Ajaguna, the leader in Ibadan land. He was advised to offer Ebo. He complied. Ajaguna, please come to my rescue. Leadership has its high price and is very difficult. Ifa, please come to my rescue. Human beings are very difficult. So, as you hear in this verse, it's very clear. When we discuss leadership, we're discussing working with people, and working with people can be a challenge. So, in this story, there was a leader in Ibadan. At this time, Ibadan was like a military town, a military base. And many of the people who lived in Ibadan were soldiers who lived with their families. And Ajaguna was a military general, and he was also the leader of the town. At this time, it was a time of peace in the land. But what was very ironic is that Ajaguna was a skilled warrior. He was a very brilliant strategist. He had incredible tactics, and and anytime he would wage war, he would always win. The problem was that inside of his own community, he had problems. In his own community, he was not successful. He was often plagued by conspiracies amongst the folks in his own neighborhood, even in his own household. He couldn't make a move or make any decision without the people in his general vicinity and area being opposing to whatever he said. They would criticize him. They would say, "No, I don't think that's a good decision. That's a bad decision." They would provide opposition to anything that he made, any declaration that he made. People would always debate it. Even in his own household, his wives, his children even caused problems for him. They also were the ones who were debating what he said, what he did, what he didn't do, and they doubted him. Ajaguna wondered why this was so. He decided to involve the community in all of his decision makings as a leader. And when he did this, the community, he allowed them in on his deliberations completely. And the community deliberated and they deliberated. And then when they made a pronouncement, and he would make this announcement and decide upon a particular course of action, the whole community would still criticize him. And at this moment, they began to accuse him of being extreme, of being high-handed. And what he realized is that he couldn't satisfy the people in Ibadan. So that was the time when Ajaguna decided to go for Ifa consultation. And what he was worried about was he wanted to know, would he overcome this crisis? Would he overcome these challenges? And the Babalawo told Ajaguna that the enemies outside one's house, or enemies are ones who stay outside of one's house. And those enemies are very easy to overcome, or easier to overcome, while the conspirators are the ones who are inside of one's household, inside of one's community. So the difference the Babalawo was talking about, there's a difference between an enemy and there's a difference between conspirators. Enemies live outside the home. They may be easier to identify and they might be easier to address. But conspirators, on the other hand, conspirators live inside of one's home. They live inside of one's community. The Awol said that the conspirators inside of your house will wage a war that you cannot win, but you also cannot lose. This very interesting contradiction of a war that Ajaguna, he couldn't win that war, but he also couldn't lose that war. That perplexed him. So Ajaguna was advised to offer Ebo against conspiracy within his home, his community, his household. And Ajaguna was even surprised even more to realize that he was offering Ebo to deal with and fight his own family members. His own family members were the ones who were planning against him. And he lamented to the Babalawo, like, come on, like, why? Why is it so hard to deal in this position? And the Babalawo said, that is how difficult human beings can be. Human beings are a challenge to deal with, but you have to deal with them. So he was advised to not only offer Ebo, but he was also advised to feed Ifa and feed Eshu. And the Babalawo told him that the price of being a leader is heavy. Doing Ebo consistently, making sacrifices, being congenial, being diplomatic, all of these things are the price of being a leader. Sometimes you got to swallow your pride. You can't react immediately. Sometimes you have to wait and deliberate and be looked at by people as if, oh my God, you're weak, you're a punk because you didn't say, You didn't cuss that person out immediately. Sometimes that is the price of being a leader, because the price of being a leader is very heavy. Everyone can't be it. So Ajaguna went back home with the desire to succeed, but he also had a mental state where he didn't trust anybody. He decided to move away from all the traitors and deceivers. And he moved to a part of the land, and he cleared that land out, cleared the plot of land. And after he cleared the plot, he then cut down a very strong Iroko tree. When the people in the neighboring area saw this, they then began to say, "Oh my God, Ajaguna, why are you doing this? Why did you just cut down that Iroko tree?" The people told him the place where he had decided to erect his new home was actually the meeting place of the Iami. And that too was the place where the community left their offerings to the Iami so that the Iami would not wreak havoc within their community. So at this moment, Ajaguna was faced with an interesting decision. He lost faith in human beings. He began to think like, maybe these people are lying to me, because he came back with no trust. Maybe these folks are lying to me. Maybe they're all wrong. Why should I trust these folks? Everybody else up to this point has led me incorrectly. Why should I trust them? And he kept deliberating. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. Ajaguna decided to trust his own instincts. And his instincts said, forget what these people are saying. All these people are wrong. They're trying to lead you down the wrong path. They're trying to betray you, just as you've been betrayed before. So he ignored them. And he continued to build his home on this plot of land. After he finished building his home, he then began to move his family members from the neighboring town into this new place. And what do you think? Wouldn't you know, the Iami took great insult to this. They could not believe that this leader was moving into their territory, moving to their specific plot of land. And they took it as a territorial fight. So the Iami called an emergency meeting, and they decided to make sure that Ajaguna and his family died a very, very, very painful death. So they even decided if anyone in his family refused to leave after they started bringing more problems, the Iami decided they would suffer. His family, his bloodline would suffer from generation to generation because Ajaguna had made that mistake. As a result, Ajaguna became very sick. And he would go from healer to healer, and the healers had no solution to his problem. They had no solution, to no avail. He wasn't able to get any recourse of action to heal his illness. And that was finally when Ajaguna was like, he had an aha moment. It's like, man, I should have listened to the people. The people told me that this would happen. No sooner that he had made that aha moment, Iku came. Death came. And death came to the household of Ajaguna. And what do you think Ajaguna did? He began to beg death for another chance. He begged and begged and begged. No avail. What is Ifa saying? What is Ifa saying? Ifa is saying that leadership is very difficult. Leadership requires great sacrifice. Leadership requires you at times to trust people that you don't know and to not trust people that you do know. Leadership requires you to be calm in the face of chaos, to, to listen even though challenges and chaos abound. To be a good leader, one must sacrifice so many things. In this regard, Ajaguna made so many mistakes. The biggest mistakes that he made were not trusting Ifa. He had already offered a bow, he had already been given the plan. Part of the plan was basically that he needed to eat crow from time to time. He needed to just suck it up because that's oftentimes what leaders have to do. But he couldn't do that. Leadership is a very challenging process. When we think of this, what are qualities or what are things that good leaders do? And Otura Oriko Ifa says, early arrival on earth does not automatically bestow leadership on anyone. It is only those whose Ori support them who shall be called to be great leaders. These were Ifa's declarations for Okan, the cowrie shell, the one cowrie shell, when going to claim leadership over the monetary denominations. Okan is the leader. All monies, please concede leadership to Okan. Okan is the leader. This Ifa is talking about you don't come into the world and automatically expect to be a leader. Leadership requires cultivation. Leadership requires cultivation of your Ori. We talked about this in this Odu, and it says Okan is the leader of all denominations. What is this talking about? The cowrie shell was the first money. That was the first thing that humans used as money. So the cowrie shell is the leader of all denominations of money. That's what Ifa is saying here. And in doing that, how did it become that? By utilizing its Ori. Ori is the dictator of leadership. If a leader is not clear-headed, when we think about this, we can talk about it on a spiritual or metaphysical level, but we also need to talk about it on a very physical level, a very material level. What does it mean literally when Ifa says it is only those whose Ori support them that shall be called to be leaders? It is only if your Ori is working properly. It is only when you are thinking very clearly, when you are assessing all sides of a situation, when you're trying to see things clearly, when you are taking your time to assess, when you are deliberating properly, when you're using your intelligence, when you're utilizing your God-given wisdom, when you are utilizing your connection with God. That is Ori. If you maintain that connection, that then will allow you to be a good leader. Lastly, I want to chant one verse of the Odu Ogbedi. Ifa says, a big boil exacerbates an understanding person. This was Ifa's message for Orunmila when going to become the head of the lawmakers in the community. He was advised to offer Ebo. He complied. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of joy. Come and perceive all array of life. So when we look at this verse and analyze this story, let's put all of the stories together, all of the things that we learned from all of these Ifa stories. Let's put it all together. What did Orunmila do? So in this particular community, Orunmila was eventually called to become a lawmaker, a senator, a chief within this community. But what this community lacked was sensibility. In this community, they were very high-handed. And what I mean by high-handed is that they gave very, very strong punishments for very minor crimes. If a person had been stealing, it doesn't matter if it was a child who stole some meat out of the cook pot or a person who stole one piece of fruit out of the market. That person was sentenced to death immediately. So they had a zero tolerance on all crimes. So anybody who committed any level of crime, no matter how major or minor, the sentence was the same: death. And we know that that is absolutely wrong. So within this process, Orunmila was called to become the head of the lawmakers in this town. And no sooner he decides, you know what, I need to offer Ebo, because he sees the discrepancies, the challenges, the issues in that area. He casts Ifa, offers his Ebo. Part of his Ebo was shea butter and eggs. So after he does his Ebo and he assumes his position as one of the lawmakers in the town, Orunmila is faced with a great challenge. Some of the children in the community were found within the coconut grove consuming coconuts. And these coconuts were deemed stolen. And interestingly enough, one of the children that were caught was Orunmila's child. And what was the sentence? Death was the sentence. But as Orunmila was the head of all lawmakers, he had to be the one to make the edict. So, no sooner than this happened, the people come knocking on Orunmila's door and they say, Baba, these children were found consuming coconuts. They should be killed. They stole these coconuts. They should be killed. And Orunmila basically looked at them with this, with this very surprised glare. And then he said, wait, let me deliberate. No, Baba, we need to discuss it now. Orunmila closed his door. Shortly, they came back. Eshu Odara shows up and tells Orunmila, well, what you need to do, take one egg, put it in this side, and take another egg and put it on this side. And what I want you to do is take this shea butter and rub your face so it looks like you're sweating. Looks like you have a fever. So then, as the people knock on the door, Orunmila, you need to make a deliberation now. Orunmila says, I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling up to making this edict at this point in time. No, Baba, you need to make the discussion now. You need to make the pronouncement of death so that we can move on with this process. We will kill them before the morning. And then, as he said, I'm not feeling well. Eshwadar presses one side of his jaw and he spits out the egg yolk, and it looked like vomit. And they said, "Oh, Baba, you're sick. Okay. All you need to do is just say yes or no. Say yes or no." They keep pressuring him, pressuring him, pressuring him. And then Eshodar pushes on the other side and he spits out egg yolk. Looks like vomit. And they were like, okay, Baba, we need to take a break. You're really sick. Go lay down. We'll make the decision in the morning. So as Orunmila is allowed this time, Eshodara and Orunmila go into action to research what actually occurred. And what is found out, what is discovered is that these youths had actually paid for the coconuts. So what would have happened had they been killed, they would have been killed, wrongfully killed, sentenced to death. And that was how Orunmila was able to convince the town people, we need to change the law. This is an unjust law. So an unjust law is no law at all. We need to change it. We need to let the punishment fit the crime. That was how Orunmila was able to do that. So what is Ifa saying? If you are a leader, you have to know the way. And you have to make decisions even against the masses if the masses are going against justice. Lastly, I want to say what Ejiogbe says. Ifa, Ejiogbe says, Ifa, you are the leader. I am the follower. It is the leader who teaches the followers wisdom. Ifa says so beautifully and eloquently that if you don't know the way, why are you leading? What is the way? Ifa. Ifa is the leader. Olodumare is the leader. If your leader does not know God, if your leader does not know Ifa, does not know Olodumare, where will your leader take you? Ifa is the leader, and Ifa will teach the follower wisdom. If you are a leader, you have to be a follower. No good leader, no good follower, no good leader has ever, a good leader has always has to have had been a follower. A good leader is a good follower. And when we say a good follower of God. So as I close, what I'm saying is Ifa is the way. If we don't know the way or the process that can lead us through dangers in the darkness, if we don't know that, or we aren't in contact with leaders who know that, then our leaders don't know the way. If one does not submit to a higher power, how can they lead? That is all I'm saying. Submission to Olodumare, submission to Ifa is what supports one in being a great leader. Ashe. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate everything that you have shown and demonstrated. All of you who have put things into the chat, we appreciate that. Trying to get things in this. We thank you so much for joining us. I want to let you know some announcements. So today is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday should be Oshe Ifa, and it is also Itarogun. So those of you who are interested, you can follow along on the site. If you would like to make contributions, you can follow along on the site. Everything is below. If you like the things that we are doing here at Idinka, please feel free to make donations. Also, We've got Itadagun that will be on Tuesday. This coming Friday, we have Makings of, so no, not Makings of Men. We have Conversations with Ifa. Makings of Men will actually be this Thursday. So Makings of Men will be on Thursday, and Conversations with Ifa will be on Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Conversations with Ifa, and Makings of Men, which will be Thursday, will be at 6 p.m. as well. Topic for Conversations of Ifa is going to be health, wellness, and wellness reset with herbs. So we're going to talk about some very interesting things. So if y'all are interested, join us, tap in. We thank you all for being on today. So let us close with prayer. Olodumare, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for good leadership and good leaders. Help us to be good leaders of ourselves and good followers of Olodumare and good followers of good leaders. Continue to ward off the challenges and remove obstacles so that we can see ourselves as you see us. Ashe, Aboro, Aboye, Aboshishe, Aboto. Thank you all so much. See you on Tuesday, see you on Thursday, and see you on Friday. Ashe.